I'm here in Congress with well-known Islamic imam, scholar, pastor Sheikh Omar Suleiman, who is here attending the congressional hearing on hate, was accompanying Wadee Alfayoumi's mother, Hanan Shaheen. Sheikh Omar, thank you so much for being here. What has today been like for you attending this hearing, sitting alongside Wadee's mom as people talk about hate crimes in America and her son was killed in a hate crime?
I think that people are stunned by how positive she is, how she's able to maintain a smile. I mean, this woman was stabbed 12 times. The last thing she heard Wadee say as he was stabbed 26 times was, "Oh no." And when we had her janazah in Chicago, the janazah for Wadee, she was unable to attend because she was obviously in the hospital. She was isolated from everybody else. She wasn't able to receive any pastoral care, so she couldn't even watch the janazah from afar, the funeral from afar. I was angry on her behalf by how quickly they made her invisible in the room. Senator Graham, Senator Cruz, they couldn't even muster the compassion to offer one word of condolence to her. They immediately went to anti-Semitism on college campuses. If I was her, I would have felt a great sense of rage, but I think anyone that meets her is inspired by sort of the calmness of her soul despite everything that's happened to her. And that resilience is part of the Palestinian resilience that we're seeing in Gaza right now, with people that are literally holding their children in bags and seeing them betrayed and bombed and mutilated by the same type of hateful policy and rhetoric that her son was murdered by.
I would say in relation to Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, shame on them, but I don't think you can shame the shameless. You mentioned the violence in Gaza.
Right.
What was so shocking for a lot of people was to see that violence come home, to use a phrase.
Right.
Just, what was it, a week after the October 7th attacks, the first person killed in the United States in the wake of October 7th is a little Palestinian boy who's killed by a man allegedly shouting, National Day of Jihad and you're going to come get me, and thinks that this family of this 6-year-old and his parents are going to do some harm to this old white guy who is now on trial, is pleaded not guilty. How shocked were you when you got the news that day on October the 14th or the day after?
I was literally in a protest, and I got the text in a protest as I was getting down from the podium speaking about, and I remember exactly what I said then, the amount of children that had been killed in a week had already outnumbered a certain amount of children that had been killed in Ukraine over a span of a couple of years at that point, in 1 week. And I remember speaking about the crime of the Palestinian child simply not being a Ukrainian child, clearly. And as soon as I got down from the podium, I got a text message from some of the brothers in Chicago about what had happened. And, obviously from then on just went completely focused into that. And at some point we made our way out to Illinois, and a few people were trying to connect me to Wadee's mother. And since then it's just been, it's been inspiring, but at the same time enraging. Inspiring to see her courage, enraging to see the speed and pace at which Wadee has become forgotten.
I wanted to ask you about that. You just mentioned Ukraine. I've got to ask the question. If Wadee had been a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Ukrainian refugee child who was killed by a racist landlord, would everyone in America know his name in the way they don't know Wadee's name?
Absolutely. Look, Wadee wasn't even on the front page of the day of the funeral of most media outlets. If Wadee was a Ukrainian child, and I'll take it a step further, there was a horrific murder of a synagogue president in Detroit. I believe Samantha Wall was her name. And the immediate speculation was that it was a Palestinian that killed her. And that was within a couple of days, if I'm not mistaken, of Wadee's death, Wadee's murder. And you already saw the speculation and the suspicion being pointed towards Palestinians and attributing this, which turned out to be untrue. It wasn't a Palestinian that killed her, and it was unrelated, even though it was a tragic murder. If Wadee was a Jewish boy that was killed by a Palestinian landlord, what would have been the reaction of America? This was the first hearing Wadee was mentioned, and it was only in the very beginning by Senator Cardin. After that, I mean, he was completely invisible. Hanan was completely invisible. It demonstrates...
A Palestinian woman in Congress, of course, we're in the House office buildings right now. This is a place where the only Palestinian American woman elected to Congress, Rashida Tlaib, was censored after October the 7th.
Right.
None of the guys who said flatten Gaza, level Gaza, turn
Right.
it into a parking lot. But she said river to the sea, Palestine should be free, and she got censored in this building. So the targeting of Palestinians and Palestinian women is quite common right now.
I mean, a sitting senator, Senator Kennedy, said to the Arab Muslim witness that your head should be in a bag. So in a hearing on hate crimes, a hate crime was literally just committed. I mean, he said your head should be in a bag after asking her to condemn Hamas, condemn Hezbollah, condemn Iran, then yelled out to her that your head should be in a bag. So that's while she's sitting literally just about 4 feet away from Hanan, who was stabbed 12 times by a man who had heard that type of rhetoric and acted upon it.
You support Hamas, don't you? You support UNRWA and Hamas, don't you?
Sir,
Please.
I think it's exceptionally disappointing that you're looking at an Arab American witness before you and saying you support Hamas.
You know what's disappointing to me?
I do not support Hamas.
Bring yourself
I do
to
not
say
support Hamas.
You don't
or
support UNRWA. You don't support Hamas. You don't.
I was very clear in my support for UNRWA.
Hezbollah, and you don't support Iran. You should hide your head in a bag.
Look, here's the thing that happened today. The Republicans were vile. The Democrats were absent. Palestinians were invisible. This has been sort of the way that this has all been playing out. It was disgraceful on the part of those congressmen, but they are very much a representation of what's been happening from these halls for the last 11 months now.
Last question, you said it's been upsetting and enraging. I think a lot of people watching, especially Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, in particular Palestinian Americans watching this, will say, yeah, we know what you're going through. We feel it too. We're going through the same thing. You are an imam. You're a man of faith. Question I'm sure you get asked all the time, especially as October 7th, how do you keep hope alive?
I think we keep hope alive by reminding ourselves that we're not in control. There's the verse in the Quran that with every hardship comes ease. It's faith that keeps Hanan alive. This woman didn't have to be here today. She really didn't have to be here. She came out here. You know why she came out here? She told me I came out here for the children in Gaza because the children in Gaza are not less than my son Wadee. She said that just now. I mean, literally a few minutes before this, she said, I came out here for those children. Wadee is not more valuable than those children. So the fact that a woman who had a maniac who unfortunately was acting upon the debunked propaganda of Palestinians beheading babies that was repeated by the president, that was repeated by sitting Congress folks, this insane human being, hate-filled human being, did this to her. I mean, can you imagine living with that trauma and then still picking yourself up to come to Congress and to sit there and watch your son be dehumanized again, and you yourself sit there and be dehumanized again, and your identity be dehumanized again? Why is she doing it? She's literally doing it because of faith. So she has faith. She believes she has to do this. And so when people ask for hope, you can believe in God's divine promise while also censuring humanity's ugliest evils. You can see the hell on earth in Gaza and take comfort in knowing that the martyrs of Gaza are going to a paradise that is outside of the reach of these tyrants. You can believe in those two things at the same time. You can be equally outraged and hopeful. And so we believe in a plan, but we also believe in trying to read ourselves in that plan. How do you stop this genocide? How do you stop this atrocity? And that's why every single person who can do something feels a need to say what they can, to be present when they can. If that only, makes a tiny difference, if all of us tap out, then we're turning our backs on the people of Gaza, and that's not something that we're willing to do, and we're not willing to turn our backs on Wadee's mom or the other victims of the same hate that continues to take the lives of our brothers and sisters in Gaza.
Well said. Sheikh Omar Suleiman, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.